That's a Packers fan.
Oh man.
I'm from Illinois originally.
Oh man, we are at the brand new digital gym right here in downtown San Diego. This is the big double feature screening event. Dr. X and the Mystery of the Wax Museum. 2 horror films from the 1930s from a director named Michael Curtiz, who went on to direct...
Bingo!
Yeah, perhaps you've heard of it. Casablanca starring Humphrey Bogart. Oh man. Who knew? He was trying to dabble with so many genres. He even directed a movie called Angels with Dirty Faces, which got parodied or paid homage to in Home Alone 1 and 2. Snakes. 1, 2, 10. Yeah, you remember that little movie that Kevin watches to use those tricks?
Yes, that movie.
So he's had a big cultural impact. We haven't done a digital gym event since the old location when we went to a Horrible Imaginings double feature screening of All the Creatures Were Stirring and Dial Code Santa Claus.
Both really good movies.
So much fun. And before that, we checked out Revenge. That was so cool. I remember. Yeah, that was a cool one. Yeah.
I can't remember if that was before or after. It's just been so long.
It was like in, I want to say May or June of 2018.
Digital gym.
Yeah. Which I first discovered it 10 years ago. Woo. With American Mary, when they had the Twisted Twins, and they had Gut with director Elias, not Walk with Elias from WWE. What else did they have? I remember they had movies like Barbarian Sound Studio, which was pretty gnarly. Grabbers, a lot of fun. I remember seeing The Babadook, and I even did a screening event one time for a documentary called Art as a Weapon, which kind of is pretty huge out here in San Diego in a way, because you see all the murals of all the Padres on walls. So Art as a Weapon.
Just drove by Tatis, the freshly painted Tatis.
Right? The wait is over.
That's probably the best mural.
Oh, let's fucking go, San Diego. Oh man, but we're gonna go on in, and Alan K. Rohde, the biographer of Michael Curtiz, is gonna be here doing intros, Q&As, signing a book, I believe, too. Blu-rays of both these movies, because he has featurettes that he produced, wrote, and he also did commentaries for it in the 2 Blu-rays of Dr. X.
Research.
I can't help it, it's a bad habit. Oh no, good habit.
Now I know what you do in the morning before you go to bed for work.
Research. Let's go on in. We got the lab experiment right here, Dr. X. And oh man, there it is. Oh, it's syringe action. Yeah. Film Geek San Diego. Check them out on social media.
Serving some mad scientist drink.
I love that. Oh, we're gonna have to try that out. And there's some posters. Look at that. Horror history right here. Thank you so much for this event.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Awesome. Check out the Film Geek San Diego.
This is a special event. We don't often have somebody in person here to introduce the films. We've done a number of video intros for a number of the films that we've had. But I'm really thrilled to be able to introduce you to Alan K. Rohde, who wrote the biography of Michael Curtiz. And when I saw these films and knew that these DVDs, these Blu-rays were out and the films were restored, and that Alan was eager to talk about Michael Curtiz in these movies, because Michael Curtiz worked in a lot of genres, made like, what, 180 films? He only made 3 horror films. We're showing 2 of them. So we're very excited.
When I had finished my first book, I was trying to look for a subject, and Pat McGilligan, a very noted author and a colleague of mine, said, what are you writing? I'd written my first book on an actor named Charles McGraw. And I said, I don't know. And he said, why don't you write about a director? So I started looking at directors, and no one had really done anything on Curtiz, and he was kind of consigned to this, a vocational mechanic of the studio system who just shot the script, and he talked in broken English, and he was mean to everybody, and all of these anecdotal type things. Because what I found out about him is all the stereotypical stuff. Some of it was true. He was not, you don't hear a lot of stories about kindness with Michael Curtiz, but he was admired. He did have friends. He wasn't a hobgoblin or a sadist or anything like that. But I found out he had an extraordinary career. He practically invented the movie industry in Hungary in the early 1900s and during World War I. Then he ended up going to Austria after a revolution. He grew up under an empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. After World War I, Hungary was dismembered. He went to Austria, made some really spectacular films like Sodom and Gomorrah and Moon of Israel with thousands of extras and so forth. And then Harry Warner found him in 1926 directing a film in Paris. So during the time that in the early 30s, he was making a new movie about every 3 or 4 months. But he was either working on a movie, thinking about making another movie. This was his whole life, was making movies. And it also helped that his citizenship, he didn't become an American citizen until 1935. So Jack and the Warner Brothers had kind of had their thumb on him. They needed to get people in the theaters. And horror movies in 1932 and 1933 were top drawer entertainment. You know, we think of horror movies, the Universal monsters and the Mummy and the Werewolf. All that came later, and it was more movies for kids or B movies and so forth. But in 1932, you had Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at Paramount, The Island of Lost Souls, and Frankenstein and Dracula, the original Universal monsters. So these horror movies were like top drawer entertainment because it was getting people into the theaters while they were giving away dishes and promos to keep people in the theaters. So they made this movie, but this movie is kind of a weird hybrid where you have a story about serial murder, cannibalism, and then you have this low comedy with Lee Tracy, of all people. I don't know how many people are familiar with Lee Tracy. He came to Hollywood, he was a star on Broadway on the front page. But when they made the movie, they put Pat O'Brien in his part because Pat O'Brien had the star cachet. So Tracy came to Hollywood and he patented these roles of the obnoxious, whiny voiced reporter, lawyer, press agent. This was the first time Lionel Atwill had an opportunity to skulk around a lab set. And he found that it fit him very, very well. You know? You'll also see, this was the pre-code era. And by that I mean that the studios chained themselves to this production code in 1930 because of a series of scandals. And there were a lot of organizations like the Catholic League of Decency and citizen groups that were protesting the debauching movies, to use their term. And there's a cliche that old Hollywood was run by Jews and administered by Catholics. But the thing about cliches, there's always a lot of truth to them. And the production code and the enforcement of it that really started in 1934 was led by a fellow by Joseph Breen, who formed the Production Code Administration that really enforced the production code. So you'll see things in here about women living together with men, drinking alcohol, which was illegal during Prohibition, and a lot of pre-code stuff in both of these movies. And this movie was deemed so shocking when Breen took over and started enforcing the letter of the production code, he would not give Warner Brothers a reissue certificate. So this movie laid fallow for many, many, many years.
Oh, we are at the intermission right now. There's some future events coming up, the Digital Gym. Alan K. Rohde signed the book here. I'm going to get these things signed right here. Oh man, great first half. Got another movie to go, which is going to be The Mystery of the Wax Museum, which House of Wax starring Vincent Price was a remake of. Yes. Oh, these are now to be drinking. Oh, biohazard cookies and all. Oh man. All right, intermission is almost up. Second half of the double feature is starting soon, but we're gonna try these biohazard cookies.
How many people have seen Mystery of the Wax Museum? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many people have seen House of Wax?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So House of Wax was the remake of this movie. And House of Wax was made in 3D. And of course, Jack Warner, who did he hire to shoot the first big Warner's 3D movie in 1953? Andre de Toth, who had one eye.
Oh.
So there's Jack.
Fascinating.
Quite a good movie, though. Okay, Mystery of the Wax Museum. this was made in a month for $230,000. And it actually made like 1.3 million, which was big money. I think 1933 was the most regressive year for the Depression. You're going to see a lot of wax statues in this, that some of them melt, and then other ones are standing like this, and then you'll see them move a little bit. The lights for this two-strip Technicolor had to be 2 to 3 times as much the normal lights. And so the statues, they got them from a statue manufacturer in downtown LA, and they melted under the lights. So Curtiz wanted to keep going, and he ordered extras from Central Casting to put on the costumes and stand there under the lights on his lot. So when this was restored, they found that print, and they got another one from Europe, and they did all the magic that we can do nowadays digitally. So for me, seeing this, seeing the previous version, seeing this version, the big thing is the sound is so great in this, where Lionel Atwill's in a wheelchair and you can hear the wheelchair squeaking. When the monster's roaming around the morgue, you hear this, all these sounds that you never heard before. And again, since this is pre-code, you're going to see a lot of stuff. One of the things the code prohibited was any discussion or plot points about narcotics and illicit drugs. And yet in this movie, one of the key characters is a drug addict, and they're selling drugs, they're talking about drugs, they're calling him a junkie, all this other stuff that was strictly forbidden because no one paid any attention to the production code until 1990.
Synthetic flesh. All right, we are back from the Digital Gym screening event. Double feature matinee of Michael Curtiz horror films. Man, the man who directed Casablanca and made that American classic dabbled in horror about almost 10 years before that. Starting off with Dr. X right here, which came out in 1932, signed by Alan K. Rode, the biographer of director Michael Curtiz. He produced and wrote featurettes on here, including the horror films of Michael Curtiz. And he also did commentaries on here as well, and The Mystery of the Wax Museum, which is also signed by Alan K. Rode. His featurette on here is, there you go, Remembering Fay Wray. So that's pretty cool. And he also did commentaries on here, and interestingly enough, for those that don't know, we pointed out earlier, Mystery of the Wax Museum, that was eventually remade 20 years later, starring Vincent Price in The House of Wax. A classic. Oh, man. And interestingly enough, well, we didn't realize this until a little bit ago. It came as a bonus feature on this DVD.
A diabolical double bill of Warner Brothers horror greats.
Oh, man. And we learned the slight changes. Well, there was drug addicts in here, and here, alcoholics. The production code was different, so Warner Brothers was like, hey, yeah, let's remake it. Oh, man.
Well, they have to change some things up, or else it's just a complete carbon copy.
That is true.
Kind of what it felt like.
It certainly did. As we were watching, we both turned to each other like, wow. And Amy even pointed out how similar it was starting to feel. I was like, yeah, well, it makes sense. And interestingly enough, Mystery of the Wax Museum, House of Wax, and the House of Wax starring Chad Michael Murray, Amy has seen all 3 of those on the big screen.
Booyah.
That's pretty cool. What a fun double feature it was.
This one was both. Really
Dr.
funny.
X is awesome.
They're both funny. Main characters who are reporters.
Yeah.
Have a great sense of humor. But this guy, the ending,
you guys the ending. That? And it only works for that time, right? That it came out in.
You can't have that type of humor these days. I think people just, I don't know. This cheesy humor works.
It did.
Everyone was laughing.
And that's only 2 out of the 3 Michael Curtiz horror films that came out. The third one, Walking Dead, starring Boris Karloff. I asked Alan K. Rode if that's going to come out on Blu-ray, and he said, financially, things are tough at Warner, and the prints are really bad. He made it sound like it's a little dim right now for the future of The Walking Dead. But that's not all that we got. Oh, so there were some extra buttons that were given away at this screening event. VIP members got this, and then they had extras. We got a button of Dr. X right here. We've got Oops.
Can you see?
Oh, can we see? Yeah, shed some light. There we go. Dr. X and Mystery of the Wax Museum lights. There we go. Not lights, but buttons. I'm all thrown off. Hello. That is so cool. Originally for VIP members, we got those. Along with these cool little prints right here. These production prints of Dr. X. It's a live heart. It's a real heart. Oh, man. Stuff from the morgue scene. Synthetic flesh. Oh, man. Gotta love Dr. X.
You say that like, oh, shoot. What's that movie about the guy with Mr. Slouse?
Oh, like Tourist Trap. Which also deals...
You said it like Tourist Trap.
That also deals with wax museums and stuff. Wax figures.
But that's synthetic skin.
Synthetic skin.
It's not wax till you get here.
And then here's the same production sets as we learned were used for both movies. Look at that. Mystery of the Wax Museum.
The laboratory scene in Dr. X was they reused this set for the morgue for Mystery of the Wax Museum. I'm saying it slow so don't say it wrong.
Right. And then here's on the final little production print we got right here. Oh, that is so cool. But that's not all. We also got a couple of posters as well. And now these items were also originally VIP, and then they had some extras. So we got a couple posters. First one, obviously Dr. X right here. Lionel Atwill, Fay Ray, Lee Tracy. God, this movie was so much fun.
So funny. Both good, but this was just so funny.
Cool characters in this. The writing was just so effective in Dr. X. And not to be outdone, this really cool poster right here, Mystery of the Wax Museum. And as we were watching, we both felt like the main character, played by Lionel Atwill, seemed very similar to Vincent Price.
For you.
Look at that. How similar is that? That's so cool. And Vincent Price is awesome. And one other factor. From this print, we were reminded, because of the light, the Technicolor light being used to film Mystery of the Wax Museum, it caused the wax figures to melt.
So they had to use real people.
Right? Real people had to be used. Oh, that is crazy. Oh, man. And that's not all for the freebies that we got.
I hope it wasn't a real person in this thing.
Oh, God. The other freebies we got, well, we had to tell them we were virgins at the new digital gym location. So we got these cool little movie poster prints with buttons on here. So we got Virgin Sacrifice and we have Bird of Paradise. Very curious about these movies right here.
Love the new location. They have parking.
Right. Oh, it's so convenient.
$5 large popcorn and soda
Refills.
with a refill.
Yes.
Good movie popcorn.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Film Geek San Diego, Digital Gym. Oh, man, we will see you for the next event, July 16th, starring Bruce Lee in The Big Boss. Oh, yeah.